place team having the MVP for the day is extremely unusual. So for them to be able to go out and do that the way that they did, fantastic. But usually the placement points do come with eliminations eventually if you're able to carry on that trajectory. So I mean, there's high hopes for them if they continue what I think was pretty decent from them yesterday, all things considered.
You agree, Max?
I agree fully. I mean, they just need to try and reach more podium positions, right, at the end of the day. Maybe even they were too aggressive yesterday. Just got to tone it down a little bit, try and stay stacked as a full team. And if you reach the later stage, as you said, Kalaris, if you get placement points, typically the eliminations tend to naturally start. And if you reach the later stage, as you said, Kalaris, I think that's the big change for them, and they are eliminations 3 points behind the top 5 position. So later stage, chances are, I think that's another points for them, and they are eliminations 3 points behind the top 5 position. So later stage, chances are, I think that's another points for them, and they are eliminations 3 points behind the top 5 position.
We'll see if they can continue that pace today before we can jump into that Infinix GT10 Pro, the official smartphone here at PMGC 2023. You guys can pick it up. It's born for professional esports players, and you guys can dominate the lobby with one of those bad boys. I need to get one because, well, as Max has found out, I'm quite trash.
No.
So that was mean.
I was setting you up for that to be like, no, Jason. We played some back at the EU champs, and you did pretty well. You had like a 15-elim game, but you went straight for the heart.
I fully agree. That's the best point you've ever done on this, Jason.
Well, maybe.
Sometimes it has to be me, okay?
You know what? That's fine. Someone can upload a compilation of me being mean to you over on TikTok. Make sure to use the tag PMGC 2023 because you can find not only, hopefully, one of those clips, but some stuff from happening behind the scenes over in Malaysia where the teams are currently playing. So make sure you guys check that out. But in the meantime here, obviously, FaZe Clan was mentioned during the interview as well as being one of the teams to beat. And Max, you've been a huge proponent in talking about how that last game we had of them on that Miramar, where they're able to change up their style, has completely avalanched into a domination so far in the leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, ever since that last game of the survival stage, Jason, they've had such a massive change in how they just approach these matches. Placement points, we're not going to cut it anymore. They need to start fragging out. They need to start reaching those late game scenarios. And look, if you look at their final 4 matches here, 3rd place with 9 eliminations, 3rd place with 6 eliminations, 3rd place with 8 eliminations, and then the 2nd place with 12 eliminations. That is a complete overhaul of how they were playing the game before this very point of the tournament. And currently with 60 points, Jason, if they maintain even just slightly this kind of consistency heading into today, they're going to go into the grand finals in Turkey so damn easily. So FaZe are looking amazing so far, and I really hope we're going to see a continuation of that new mentality for the team.
And the cool thing is they're not really being fed these situations either. It's not like the circle's just bearing down upon them game after game. They're playing really decent edge sweeping style, which I've always said when it comes to PUBG Mobile esports in general, like when you see this in Battle Royale, this shows extreme quality in skill. The fact that you can sweep the edge, still be able to play with back against the blue, win those fights out, and then move towards the podium, that's some pretty high skill level there from FaZe.
I'm not going to lie. After the first day of survival stage and even most of the second day of the survival stage, I didn't think we'd be talking this highly of FaZe Clan. I didn't think they would even have gotten into this point. But hey, credit to them to make this turnaround happen. And obviously with the results they had yesterday, they put themselves 14 points safe in the bubble. So for them, it's not even about winning matches. It's about surviving. Yes, you get some extra prize money going your way if you do place first. But you know what? Getting into grand finals is what it's really about. But a couple of other teams that maybe are surprising, at least for me, Team Queso. I am honestly surprised to see them in 3rd place with the results we saw in group stage, obviously with the survival stage as well. But look at this, 16 placement points, 36 eliminations, the 2nd highest fragging out team in the lobby right now with some of the best teams in the world. I think that is a true testament to how strong this team can be.
And especially if you look back on their matches of yesterday, they got 2nd place with 13 eliminations on Sanhok. If they can try and hold their position in top 5, Jason, today, it is going to be down to that Sanhok possibly. It is a map where they typically are really good. It's just unfortunate this just once a day, but they're still going to try and make the most out of that kind of battleground. So yeah, Team Queso has been a big surprise. I'd even go to say that Rook has been a really big surprise for me despite not being in top 5 right now. A team from Africa starting off hot with that chicken dinner. Just need to see more eliminations from Rook compared to some of these teams we're looking at on the top 4 fraggers list. And if they can do that, maybe Rook could also push himself up in the grand final.
Honestly, I'd be concerned if I was anybody from actually BTR Red Villains down. So 4th down. Why do I say that? Well, if FaZe, Procedure, or Queso had been able to convert any of those podium finishes that they had into a first place, the gap in points would be significant. And if they continue to play the way that they played yesterday, those three teams, and they get at least one win on the board today, the gap will be significant. The catch-up will be difficult for the rest of these teams.
And yeah, and to be honest, if we're looking at the overalls and thinking about them, I'm thinking maybe even 10th place right now for Inco, which is at 30 points, might be around the cutoff point. Definitely one below them with Reject at 28 as we fall to 17th after with Gladiators. But it's getting really tough. You cannot afford to have a bad match. And honestly, Kalaris, coming into this after seeing Mad Bulls before, if I were to tell you, hey, at the end of day one of Last Chance, they're going to be 13th place with only 16 points, I don't think you would have believed me.
I mean, yeah, I think you said it pretty well in the past couple of days, like feast or famine, right, for this team. And I think, unfortunately, at this point, our region might be done for when it comes to the Last Chance. Like, Gladiators and Mad Bulls down there, not really seeing huge glimmers of hope for them just yet. And when it comes to today, when pressure is going to be on, I think that some of those teams at the top, as I say, with all of those podium finishes that they've got, I think they're going to be able to secure their position, shore those defenses up against these teams, which, if you're our Mad Bulls or Gladiators, you need two great games to start off just to catch up.
Yeah. When you're looking at a lot of these teams, you could even add to the mix here on top of Mad Bulls and Gladiators, your Duxan, your Nigma Galaxies, your Reject. The thing is, they had a lot of leeway when you started the start of this league stage, right? There was a lot of rotations that were very easy to pull off because teams were maybe a little bit slower, trying to adapt. There's so little mistakes happening in these matches now, Kalaris. Teams are so quick to rotate on circle pops at any kind of situation, taking the best position so quickly. If you're just 10, 15 seconds slower than a majority of the teams, chances are you're not going to reach a top 5. You're not going to reach a podium, and you're definitely not going to get those wins that you definitely need at this point. So, man, teams like Mad Bulls, they're going to struggle because there's just not that much space anymore. They just need to try and be even more proactive, which is easier said than done, but it's what you have to do.
I mean, and knowing one mistake could decide between you getting to grand finals or not is just even more pressure. Fantastic shot coming with the witty there, but still, like, look at Influence Rage, the domination they were pulling off in obviously Americas, in the league stage, and in survival stage. They're not safe. They're at 8th place at 41 points. They can easily climb into that top 5. But honestly, it's so scary seeing how many teams are in very close reach of top 5 that I could not tell you who's going to be there at the end of the day.
I really believe, Jason, today the leaderboards are going to be completely scrambled. We saw that at the end of the survival stage, right? Where the teams at the bottom, you even saw like Inco as an example, do a massive comeback alongside Team Queso. I think the teams that are currently not in top 5 have very little to lose right now. You're just going to full send it. If you're Mad Bulls, Gladiators, Reject, Inco, you're just going to go giga aggressive, okay? Get all those eliminations and try and reach the late game, because exactly, you only have 6 more matches remaining. At the start of the day, you might try and get some placement points to try and stay relevant in the conversation. On the second half of the day, you need to start blasting from the get-go, because otherwise, a spot in top 5, you won't be able to do a comeback in a game or two. You need to do a really good game followed up by extremely consistent results. So the bottom teams, they are going to put everything they have on the table out here on these matches.
I mean, I'm going to anticipate Jason's next question, was just like, okay, what do those bottom teams have to do in order to be able to... No, okay, no. But the point is that we were talking about this yesterday, right? How do you approach a situation where you are so far behind? Do you radically change your strategy and things like that? I don't think you do. I just think you turn your normal playstyle up to 11. Take some of those shots that you wouldn't necessarily normally do, just in case you get a long-range headshot, and then you can follow up on something, right? Because usually you think to yourself, you want to conserve ammo in order to be able to kind of go into the late game. But if you can hit some wild headshots that you might not necessarily take otherwise, and then follow that up on a fight, that could be a few more points here and there, and that could be the difference maker if you are one of these lower teams in the ranks.
You know what my question was going to be, Kalaris? Inco Mad Bulls Ruins, is it going to happen again today? 2 teams fighting to get to top 5. Well, which team's going to fall away? Are both teams going to go away from Ruins? Are Nigma Galaxy going to be left wondering, like, hey, where's the fighting? Where's our free eliminations? These are 2 teams who can't afford to have a hot drop go wrong.
I think...
Inco... Sorry, I want to jump on this one, because Inco don't have to drop on Mad Bulls and Ruins, and also because they have that hot drop versus IHC in Novo. So, like, they have to change 2 pretty much drops, even if it's a secondary drop in Novo. We need to see a complete overhaul from Inco, because 4 matches out of the 6, if you go for that hot drop situation, you're not going to make in top 5. So, yeah, they have to change something here. There's so many spots available, so Inco, go to the East Coast. It's available. It would be a good option.
Agreed.
Are we going to get a world where both teams just ditch the drop location, considering, well, Mad Bulls are a lot farther behind than Inco. And then they hot drop each other somewhere else on the map, and they're like, guys, what the hell? You're supposed to stay there. We're supposed to move. Honestly, I wouldn't want to be one of these teams, and even if we talk about the leaderboards, Max, and as you mentioned, how quickly they've shifted. I mean, U2 Alliance, after match 3, they were first place by, you know, a decent enough margin. They've fallen to 9th place now, and this is obviously another team, another powerful team looking to break back through in the ranks. And they looked, I'd say, pretty decent overall. We talked about their splits maybe being a little bit too spread on certain matches, but they've looked pretty strong, especially with Olio on the team.
Now, I especially like their potato heel finish against Influence Rage, where they went for the push onto Law. I think that was an amazing play. Didn't quite work out, but it was the right approach in that kind of scenario. But I would compare really U2 Alliance to a Mad Bulls from the survival stage in the sense they got 2 second places with 8 eliminations, 12 eliminations. Outside of that, what was there? Not much. We need to see more consistency on their bad games, similar to an IHC, for example, just getting at least 5, 6, 7 eliminations per match. If you can do that, they will very quickly get close to that top 5. So I believe in Alliance here, but it's so close here, Jason. It's really hard to predict.
You know what? We don't need to talk anymore. We want to get into the games. People are always asking, Caster, when match? Well, it's right now, and it's going to be brought to you by Jack and Blank as you drop into Sandhawk.
You know, not a lot of people know that, Jason, but behind the scenes, it is actually Blank that controls the start game button. So when everyone's saying that, it's all just directed at you, Blank.
I know, I actually do have just a big red button off to my right-hand side. I can't let you guys see it because it is confidential at the end of the day. I am under NDA about the big red button, so I'm giving you just what I can at this point in time. But I'll be pressing that bad boy very, very shortly as we get into the game. BTR, get ready to go. Superboy, stop dancing, get your headset on, and get ready to go because it's our final day of Last Chance, Jackie. And we're already in it. Dear me, the game is starting fast. I wasn't ready.
You hit the button accidentally, Blank.
I think I did.
Elbowed it. He
when I was showing it off.
Button. Yeah, he accidentally manhandled it.
I fat-handed it.
Distracted by the dance moves. It happens. It happens, Blank. But this is where it's taken us. Your big red button antics have taken us straight to our last Sandhawk. It feels like it was so long ago we started things, you know, about 4 weeks ago now here on Sandhawk, Blank. Now we have our last time we're going to see this battleground in a lobby that has been delicious.
Oh, feels like sadness to me because it's all finishing, but also I'm excited to see which teams do end up in that top 5. We saw just then that Team Queso currently have the highest average here over on Sandhawk. I think it was about 18-point average, maybe a 19-point average there, which is sort of ridiculous overall considering Team Queso is on 52 points. So around about, let's say 60% of their points are coming from Sandhawk so far. So they are certainly extremely good at this one. They're starting things off with a hot drop over towards the Gladiators, who I think at this point in time, we could probably consider out of the top 5. So Team Queso just looking to pump their points further versus the team they know to be quite weak.
That's the ideal scenario, really. If Gladiators are going to give them the opportunity, dangling points in front of them here, as Meku has dropped further away from the rest of the pack, so has no trade potential, no room for backup. And it's an easy freebie. They secure that one, grab it in the bag. All Tixie can do is watch down and quake in his boots, knowing that they've already given up some free elimination points today. Inco get the free drop as well on Ruin, so no contest there. Mad Bulls moving off, and that will be a bit of a pass, a little backdoor deal on that one, Blank, for the drop spots.
Yeah, head on to that outside edge. And I think I respect that from Mad Bulls, right? You don't want to go for this same hot drop every single time because honestly, at this point, you could... Nah, that's bad news. You could consistently say that Inco are sort of causing themselves problems with this hot drop, right? If Mad Bulls decided they wanted to go for this one once again and just take their chances on getting those 4 eliminations and getting out of there, you know, that could go either way, right? And Inco would be in an even worse of a deal. Right now, 30 points. They still have a chance to get towards that top 5. Mad Bulls, it's not a similar story at 16 points overall. Like the guy's saying on the desk, I think it is sort of over for our region in EU. Sad days. I think it's pretty much donezo for Gladiators as well with the way this Sandhawk is starting out. That's going to be very bad for the mental game. But for Inco, they claim themselves control of Ruins after some very brute forcing over towards that position of the map. Might give them a better chance here considering they are actually able to get going fairly quickly without the risk of Nick McGalaxy taking a peek in, who don't even bother with it. they realize they need to have the most unbelievable day if they want to make it into the top 5, which quite frankly, I would say nigh on impossible. Probably a 98% chance that they're not getting in here.
Yeah, it really would have to be something absolutely unfathomable from this game all the way to the end of the day. Back to back, really. We'd need to see non-stop shenanigans from them. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening. Thought potentially as well, having a look at the map feed, there was a chance we were going to see a bit of a late play from the Mad Balls, just sort of guarding for the rotate out through ruins. But instead, they've taken their time to loot up and just have a little bit of a scouting party. So advanced positions, they'll get a bit of a read on how things are going early, but haven't thrown themselves into a fight versus Inco. They've given them safe passage across the bridge and back up into the zone, where Tixi has now spotted them and got a bit of a read. Meanwhile, Duxan are making a move, though, and could run into the Mad Balls. So a few potential bits of contact already occurring here as squads are sizing each other up.
And I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of teams have already made that move, right? Influence Rage, passed off from boot camp. They immediately sent across the river towards those eastern compounds in Sandhawk. Reject, similarly, made a rotate through Trifecta. They're on the southern side, so we're cramming a lot of teams into a small space right now. And with Gladiators going down to 2, that does give a lot more room for these other teams to play, because you've got your main team that drops over towards that northwest island, already cut down to 2 players, which gives a lot of the other teams on the outer edges easier access to those spots, specifically over towards that little eastern hilltop. That is a really strong position that we know a lot of teams love to go for. DX getting themselves into an engagement. This is off to the western side of Paris Resort right now, as they both attempted to make their way across the North Bridge. Lamborghini, though, takes a heavy hit there from Prepod, and he will hit the second too. So DX going down to 2 players, most likely. It's pretty bad for their run. Remember, they're in 5th place right now, 46 points. 2 players right off the rip here in Sandhawk. And they were playing well, man. I actually really like the way DX has been playing out a lot of these games, but I don't think this team comes online until Erangel, to be quite honest with you. That's where they find the majority of their points. So the midday heightened senses for DX are certainly what we're looking for going forward. So I can sort of understand why they wouldn't mind writing off a Sandhawk like this, but, you know, not getting a huge amount of points here early on is a bit of a struggle going forward, Jackie.
No, you are right, man. You know, they've kind of got their 2 different forms, right? Sandhawk, sleep. Erangel, excited. That's what we see coming out from DX. That's really where they have been able to... yeah, that's what it's like, man. It feels that, you know, they get the running shoes on. They're holding B blank and they're just running non-stop. It makes a world of difference for them as well. But that is an unlucky start, taking so much damage and being left with only, you know, half of the squad very early into this one as well, because that's the other thing. Well, although we've already seen a little bit of, you know, early combat, we're seeing the way some of these teams are looking coming into it in terms of the body language already. This game hasn't been live for very long. So that's rough for DX. Like you're saying, you're in 5th place and you're only a stone's throw away from falling out of that as well, as IHC are right on your tails. The Mongolian side, 43 points to DX's 46. So a thimbleful there, and we could see a change. Meanwhile, we see a rotate here through the blue. BTR driving on by. They've got the tunes blaring, some Katy Perry on the radio. So they've been detected, blank, but there's not really much room for the chase just yet. So free info as they go roaming through the map, looking to get themselves situated on their rotate.
Yeah, man, this is threatening Katy Perry, right? You know, you blare it off in the distance. People are like, whoever's playing that, probably we shouldn't mess with them. They're very confident coming into this game if they're going to be blasting that one out the speakers. That's towards that south side in Sami. You can't quite see them on your screens just yet, but they were rotating on past through Enigma Galaxy. Duxan yet to make a move outside of Ruins, but it's already been picked clean kind of by both Inco and Galaxy. So Duxan just waiting for their opportunity. There you go. Start to see the BTR boys peek their heads in towards the circle as we head on to our stage 2, which sent us up towards that northern side of the island. So FaZe Clan, after their miraculous results over towards the last 2 games in Miramar, where we know they shine, they get themselves a little bit of luck here up towards that northern edge. So Hatting controlled by them, but a really nice split, I would say, so far. Bit dangerous for Ventores, though. We know that hilltop. I talked about it before. It's very much a focal point for a lot of teams, gives you so much control, but you will have teams fighting for that one. I don't know if one player is going to cut it, but as a position to hold this early on, and maybe as an anchor point for the rest of the team to regroup on, it's great news.
Depends on how the cookie crumbles then. When push comes to shove, if they can hold the angle, use it to the best of their ability. So far, looks good. Elim feed bodes well for them as they pick up an opening knock onto Brute Force. Brute Force that are currently under an attack from Influence Rage. They've swooped down onto them and done a nice chunk of damage, leaving a couple of the players on their last leg. Similar story, though, for Law, as he's taken a bite back. Going for the quick medic mission as well. They want to reset the fight on this one. You've got other players, meanwhile, duking it out as BTR are taking a ton of damage from the Galaxy boys. So the Cosmos clash continues there. Nice nade round the corner. That's a big pickup that will shut down another man. Brute Force still holding on though, Blank. All things considered, they're trying to scrape by on this, but the nades are the difference maker as FaZe are starting to backstab now.
Yeah, this is an interesting push coming from FaZe, and I think you realize that any team that's in this position is sort of in that contention for that hilltop. They've left Vintoras up top side. He's returned to the team now. They'll get this third party done and then maybe regroup on that position. This is an extremely aggressive push from FaZe. It's one that can be very risky. They're already losing players here from Udo Alliance as Mela tries to hold down the fort. Mormon's down and out, and they could have maybe just held onto that hilltop, but they got hungry. They got a little bit greedy, whilst Influence Rage handedly takes down the rest of Brute Force here. YDO and Prepod behind the rook. I don't know how many more nades Influence Rage still has on board, but this is an excellent defense from them at an excellent time as well, because Influence Rage 8th place, but very close to moving into that 5th place barrier.
And we know they can do it with the sheer skill they've shown us when it comes to Elims. A team that feels like even when the odds are stacked against them, they play very confidently, very bold into a lot of the engagements they take. In the meantime, though, FaZe starting to take damage in the battle of attrition as the backline is full of other squads. From a distance, you've got Udo Alliance that are just taking pot shots wherever they can see a little bit of skin from FaZe. There was also Rook with Eugene miles away on the other island even, hitting some long-distance shots to punish them and leave their HP far lower than they would like in a position like this. So this fight, now not very sustainable. You know, this has been going on for a very long time. The idea of this being a quick cleanup for Influence Rage and cure a few points from it, that went out the window a while ago. Now you're looking at not making too many mistakes with how many eyes are on you. Fight's not stopping though, Blank, as everyone is scrapping to have some sort of area to play in at this point.
Mate, this is currently a 2v4 going on between Gladiators and Team Queso. Not sure how they've pulled off what they did. Circle's nasty, heads up towards that northeast side. AHC very pleased with this considering they're not quite in yet. More Molotovs sent over the top, not too many nades, but the rest of Gladiators do regroup. Raze is providing that information back. Arta and Big Milo to hold it down in that front line. Another nade goes through, won't find too much damage. A little bit of a tag over towards Tixie. That's about it. And I think he realizes, get rid of Raze. He's providing too much of that information back towards them. When they strike, they'll know about it. But Team Queso, this is a pretty sad result for them. Remember, this is the team we were talking about, saying that they had one of the biggest percentages in terms of those average points on Sandhawk. To go down versus two players that you already took down half the team from would feel very, very rough. There's still comeback potential there, but with this circle moving up towards the northeast side, both these teams not in the greatest of spots.
No, for Prepod, it's basically like having a very low-quality barbecue outside, camping by the burned-out car. Just toasting his marshmallows, mate. Yeah, that's all he's got, you know. The family said we'll go on a camping trip. Prepod's thinking, oh, this will be fun. In reality, this is the camping trip. It's not ideal, Blank. At least he's warm. It could always be worse. If it was Vikendi, he'd be absolutely freezing.
But there's wolves at the door, or at least at the horrid tent that's been allowed to be brought with them that takes 3 hours to put up, and everyone gets mad at one another as Brute Force attempts to keep control, keep that cool. IHC looking over towards Rook right now. Zol's in, but the entire room is smoked up. Rami goes down. That will be one player from Rook out here. IHC claiming control over towards the southeast side. They're still on, technically, the eastern island. You got Reject that claim control over the hilltop towards that western edge as FaZe sort of threw this game away. I don't think they had to third party down to brute force. If they were able to take down both those teams, fantastic, excellent news. But you gotta know that there is a lot of teams trying to push in from that northeast edge. So the amount of sight lines that are available over towards FaZe where they had barely any cover to work with, it was somewhat of a weird play. Nades coming in. Alex moves into the building, will be immediately knocked here, gets into the smoke, survives for a bit longer, but it's Nenabet Che taking down Tixie on that top side, and Godless with some DBSs coming through the window to try and keep this one alive. Somehow Alex manages to escape, Jackie.
It's pretty heads up as well. They jumped straight on to the revive and reset the fight, knowing they had the smokes down. And Alex was lucky that the smoke was still there to block him as well. So the line of sight not going in favor of Rook. Instead now, just trying to play on the back foot, the defense, as they knew they were being pushed. And IHC come out like the katana, swinging their way through and slicing them in half. They've got a bit of an interview buff today as well on stage, talking a big game. Alex saying that they're not